It began with silence, not the kind that comforts, but the sort that screams between two people who once spoke in the language of glances and unfinished sentences. Zayan had not heard from Meher in 3 years, not a word, not a whisper, not even the kind of closure that most people beg for and rarely receive, and yet, every night, like ritual and punishment entwined, he sat by the window in his dim apartment, watching raindrops crawl down the glass like unspoken feelings down his heart, thinking about her, the one who had taught him what love felt like and what its absence could destroy. Meher had vanished without warning, not in anger, not in drama, but with a strange tenderness that made the loss even more unbearable. A message left unread, a call never returned, a final meeting that never happened, and all Zayan had to hold on to were memories so vivid they became hallucinations. The smell of her jasmine-scented hair, the way her laughter fell like spring rain, the softness in her eyes when she looked at him as if he was both question and answer, wound and cure. He could not move on, not because he didn't want to, but because his soul remained entangled in a moment that refused to pass, a moment where she had held his hand on a quiet rooftop and said, "Love me," without asking why, and he had promised without knowing that promises sometimes become cages. Life carried him forward physically. He went to work, spoke to colleagues, paid bills, laughed when required, and even flirted occasionally. But inside him was a room he never left, filled with her absence, her voice echoing in places she never stood, and her ghost living in the clothes she had never worn. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was a kind of spiritual erosion, as if a part of him was being worn away by her silence, and every year felt like walking barefoot over the same sharp memories, until one night, as rain wept against the world and the clock sighed past midnight, someone knocked at his door, and when he opened it, heart braced for disappointment, there was no one. Only an envelope, slightly damp, with his name written in her unmistakable script. "To Zayan, with all the love I couldn't speak." His hands trembled as he tore it open, his chest a battlefield of hope and fear, and the letter inside was a river of sorrow, apology, and buried truth. Meher had been diagnosed with a degenerative illness, one that would slowly steal her memories, her voice, and her identity, and she had left not because she stopped loving him, but because she couldn't bear for him to witness her becoming someone else, a stranger trapped inside the shell he once kissed, and so she had chosen to disappear before he saw her vanish in pieces. She had spent those years in a seaside town, painting sunsets and forgetting sunrises, writing letters she never sent, until her hands no longer remembered his name, except this one final note, which she had given to a nurse with instructions to send it if her condition worsened beyond return. Zayan read those words as if they were her lips, each sentence a caress, each pause a heartbeat, and when he finished, the tears that came were not of pain alone but of recognition. That love, real love, does not always come wrapped in presents, sometimes it chooses absence as an act of mercy. The torment he had lived with was not abandonment but sacrifice, and while that didn't heal him entirely, it transformed the weight of his suffering. Now he carried her memory not as a wound, but as a scar, sacred and eternal, and every rain that fell thereafter did not mock his loneliness but sang of a woman who had loved him beyond what words could hold, who had left not because she wanted to stop loving him, but because she wanted his last memory of her to be whole, and in that cruel kindness,